I never imagined that a single sentence from my wife could echo in my head for months, maybe even years, after she said it. We were in the middle of one of our usual arguments. Married couples fight, at least, that's what I always told myself. But this fight wasn't like the others. This one dug deeper. This one left something raw and festering inside me. We were standing in the kitchen. She had her arms crossed, her lips tight, her eyes flashing with the kind of defiance I'd seen in her only a handful of times before. I had just said something about her spending too much time out with her friends, about how she seemed more absent than present in our home lately. It wasn't the first time I'd said it, and it wasn't the first time she rolled her eyes at me. "You're suffocating me," she shot back, her voice sharp enough to slice through me. "I'm suffocating you," I laughed bitterly. "You're hardly ever here, and when you are, you're glued to your phone. What's so suffocating about that?" That's when she leaned in just slightly, her voice dropping in pitch, her words slow, deliberate, cruel in their precision. "I can replace you in 24 hours. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't said in the heat of uncontrolled rage. It was calm, cold, measured, and it landed harder than any scream or insult ever could. I remember staring at her, searching her face for any hint that she was joking, exaggerating, bluffing. But she didn't flinch. She didn't even blink. She just stood there, almost daring me to challenge her, to tell her she was wrong. "Is that so?" I said finally, my voice quieter than I expected. "Yes," she said, her arms tightening around herself like armor. "If you're not careful, you'll find out just how easy it would be." I wanted to laugh it off. I wanted to tell her that people don't just get replaced, like a broken appliance. But something in her eyes told me she meant every word. And that's when I made the mistake that would set the stage for everything that came after. "Okay then," I said. "Go ahead." I don't know why I said it. Maybe pride, maybe disbelief, maybe I thought calling her bluff would make her back down. But instead, it lit a fire in her. Her lips curled into the faintest smirk, as though she'd been waiting for me to give her permission. That was the beginning. The days after that argument felt different. Tense. Strange. She carried herself with a new kind of energy, like a woman who'd been handed a challenge and was determined to prove herself right. She dressed differently, nicer than usual for casual errands. She wore more makeup. She was on her phone constantly, thumbs flying, little smirks tugging at the corners of her mouth when she thought I wasn't looking. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Just her way of getting under my skin after the fight. She was trying to show me that she could replace me, but she wouldn't actually do it. After all, we'd been married for years. We had a life, a routine, history. Who throws all of that away to prove a point? But then the excuses started. Girls' night, work dinner, late yoga class, always something, and always accompanied by the same careless shrug, as though she didn't owe me an explanation. I'd ask questions sometimes, not out of control but curiosity, at least that's what I told myself. She'd meet my questions with vague answers, or worse, with silence. And I began to notice the little things. How she'd grab her phone the second it buzzed, how she tilted the screen away from me, how her laugh, her real, genuine laugh, returned, but never in my presence. I started to wonder if my words, those stupid 2 words, "go ahead," had given her exactly what she needed. Permission, a free pass, an open door to step through without guilt. And she did. One night, about 2 weeks after that fight, she came home later than usual. Her hair was messy, not in the just out of bed way, but in the way that comes after being touched, after hands have run through it, after movements that don't happen at a dinner with girlfriends. Her blouse was slightly askew, one button higher than the rest. And when she walked in, her cheeks flushed, her lips swollen, she smelled faintly, not of her usual perfume, but of something musky, masculine. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My stomach twisted into knots, but my pride kept my mouth shut. If I accused her, she'd deny it. If I pressed her, she'd lash out. And if I begged her to stop, she'd remind me of my own words, "Go ahead." So, I swallowed it. I sat there on the couch, pretending to be engrossed in whatever meaningless show was playing on the television, while my wife slipped past me with that same faint smirk she'd worn the night of our fight. That smirk became her tell. She never confessed. She never needed to. The smirk said it all. The irony is, I thought I'd feel rage. I thought I'd explode with betrayal, accuse her, demand answers. But instead, I felt something worse, silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that grew louder every time she walked out the door, every time her phone buzzed at midnight, every time I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the mirror and saw a woman I barely recognized anymore. And yet, a part of me understood. Not excused, not forgave, just understood. We'd been stuck in the same patterns for years. Work, bills, dinner, bed, repeat. Somewhere along the line, I had stopped seeing her as the woman she was and started seeing her only as my wife. I didn't notice the restlessness in her eyes until it spilled out in the cruelest way possible. I can replace you in 24 hours. And she did. That first chapter of her adventures, I never saw it directly. I never caught her in the act. But I didn't need to. Her transformation told me everything. She was bolder now, more confident. She carried herself like a woman who had been validated, desired, chosen again. And I was left in the shadows of that glow, watching silently as she slipped further and further away from the woman I once thought I knew. All because of one fight. One line, one reckless dare that neither of us took back. And the worst part, she was winning. By the end of that month, she had proven her point. She could replace me in 24 hours. She probably did, and though she never said it out loud, the truth hung in the air between us every time she looked at me, every time she left the house, every time she returned with that faint, knowing smile. It wasn't just about the affairs. It was about the power shift. She held the cards now. And I was the fool who told her to play them. I used to think the worst kind of betrayal came with obvious signs, lipstick-stained collars, hotel receipts, hushed phone calls you accidentally overhear. But I learned quickly that the real pain comes in the subtleties, in the way the person you love transforms before your very eyes, piece by piece, until you're left staring at a stranger who still wears your wife's face. After that night in the kitchen, the one where she told me she could replace me in 24 hours, things shifted in our house. At first it was almost unnoticeable. A little extra time spent getting ready before she left. A new shade of lipstick. A laugh I hadn't heard in years echoing through the bedroom as she texted someone I didn't know. And then the excuses started. I'm meeting Emily for drinks. Work called, there's a last-minute dinner I can't skip. They're offering a new yoga class on Thursdays, I'm going to try it. All harmless enough, if I hadn't noticed how quickly these plans piled up. Almost every night of the week, she had somewhere to be. And she never asked if I wanted to come. At first, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think she was just socializing more, reconnecting with her friends, trying to get healthier. But the problem wasn't the activities. It was the way she carried herself when she left, and when she came back. She'd leave the house in outfits I hadn't seen in years. Dresses that had been sitting in the back of the closet, heels I didn't even know she still owned. She put more effort into her hair, her perfume. She didn't look like a woman going to yoga or to dinner with girlfriends. She looked like a woman going on a date. And when she came back, that was worse. She'd slip in quietly, always careful not to wake me if I'd already gone to bed. But I wasn't asleep. I'd lie there in the dark, pretending to breathe evenly, while the scent of someone else's cologne clung faintly to her skin. Her cheeks would be flushed, her lips a little swollen, her hair slightly undone. She never spoke. She never offered details about her night. And I never asked. People might think I was weak for staying silent. Maybe I was. But the truth is, it wasn't weakness. It was paralysis. It was the kind of quiet you sink into when you're drowning. You want to scream, but your lungs are too full of water to make a sound. I would tell myself that if I confronted her, she'd only deny it. If I accused her, she'd spin it back on me, remind me of that fight, of my words. Okay, then. Go ahead. How could I take that back now? So instead, I watched. I paid attention to the little details. The way she suddenly kept her phone face down on the table. The way she set a password on it when she'd never cared before. The way she tilted the screen away when she typed. Sometimes, I'd catch the look on her face as she read a message, her lips parting, her eyes softening, her breath catching ever so slightly. That wasn't how she looked at her girlfriends. That wasn't how she looked at me anymore either. And that hurt more than anything. One Friday evening, she left the house wearing a tight black dress I hadn't seen in years. She used to wear it for me, back when we still made an effort for date nights. I sat on the couch watching her walk to the door, heels clicking, her perfume trailing in the air behind her. "You're going out?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Yes," she said, her tone flat. "Where to?" She hesitated, just for a second, before answering. "Drinks with friends." Her eyes didn't meet mine. Have fun, I said, my voice colder than I intended. She gave me a faint smile, one that didn't reach her eyes, and left without another word. That night, I stayed awake until 2 in the morning, waiting for her to come home. I told myself I wouldn't snoop, I wouldn't check her phone or follow her. But my mind painted its own pictures. I saw her in that dress, sitting across from someone else, laughing, touching his arm, leaning in close. I imagined his hand on the small of her back as he led her outside, hailed a cab, or pulled her into his car. And when she finally returned, hair mussed, lipstick smudged, her eyes glimmering in the dim light of the hallway, I knew my imagination hadn't been far off. She slipped into bed beside me, her body warm, her breathing uneven. She didn't touch me, she didn't even look at me. She just turned on her side, facing away, and drifted into sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my chest heavy, my throat tight. I could almost hear her bragging again in my head, I can replace you in 24 hours. And she had. Her absences became routine after that. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped waiting up. I started living in a strange, numb silence, as though acknowledging the truth out loud would make it more unbearable than it already was. But there were moments, tiny, sharp moments, where her secret life bled into mine, where I caught glimpses of the woman she was becoming. Once, she left her phone on the counter while she showered. The screen lit up with a notification, a message preview I couldn't help but read. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. No name, just a number I didn't recognize. I froze. My pulse raced. I could have picked up the phone, scrolled through the thread, found out everything in an instant. But I didn't. My hand hovered, trembling, before I shoved it back into my pocket. Because once you know, you can't unknow. And I wasn't ready for that. Another time, I noticed a faint bruise on her neck, half hidden by her hair. A mark no necklace or scarf could disguise. She caught me looking, and for the briefest second, I saw panic flash across her face. But just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by that same defiant smirk. She didn't bother to explain. She didn't need to. That was the game we were playing now, silence, smirks, and the heavy weight of words unsaid. Looking back, I think part of me wanted her to get caught. Not because I wanted the marriage to end, but because I wanted the choice taken out of my hands. If she confessed, if she slipped, if the truth spilled into the open, then I wouldn't have to decide what to do. But she was careful, too careful. She erased her tracks, covered her lies with just enough plausibility to keep me guessing. And she knew me well enough to know that I wouldn't press too hard. She had me pinned in a corner, and she knew it. There's something humbling about realizing the person you share a bed with is living a double life right beside you. It makes you question everything, your worth, your pride, your role in the story. Was I just a prop in her life now? A placeholder, the husband she came home to when she was done playing replacement games outside these walls? I didn't know, and maybe I didn't want to. All I knew was that my wife's brag had turned into a promise, and that promise was unfolding night after night, right under my roof. And I stayed silent. Because sometimes silence is easier than truth. And because deep down, I knew the truth would only hurt worse than the guessing. There's a certain kind of madness that comes from knowing something you can't prove. From living in a house filled with secrets that only one person dares to acknowledge. It wears you down slowly, like water dripping on stone. One day you wake up and realize you're not even angry anymore, you're just numb. That's where I found myself in the weeks that followed. By then, her disappearing acts had become normal. A few nights a week turned into most nights. She'd get dressed like she was auditioning for some role I wasn't invited to see, throw a vague excuse my way, and leave without hesitation. Sometimes, she didn't even bother with an excuse. She'd just say, "Don't wait up." And I didn't. At first, I used to sit by the window, my eyes tracing every pair of headlights that passed down our street, wondering which one was bringing her back. I'd check the clock, calculate how long she'd been gone, try to imagine where she was, who she was with, what she was doing. But after a while, I stopped. I realized that guessing was worse than knowing. My imagination painted pictures far crueler than reality could ever be, or maybe they weren't crueler at all. Maybe they were dead on. Either way, I started turning in early, lying in bed with the TV playing in the background just so I wouldn't have to hear the silence of our house without her. What haunted me most wasn't just that she was with someone else, it was the way she carried herself afterwards. When she came home, she was glowing. That's the only word for it. Her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright, her lips soft and swollen. She walked differently, lighter, as though the weight of her days had been lifted somewhere I couldn't follow. She was a woman reborn, and she was reborn in the arms of someone else. And me, I was the ghost haunting my own marriage. The signs were everywhere, blatant, even. Her phone never left her side anymore. She kept it on silent, screen down, as if the sound of a message alert might give away too much. Sometimes, I'd walk into the room and see her tilt it sharply, like she was shielding it from me. She had passwords for everything now. Her phone, her laptop, even her tablet. Devices that once sat out openly were now locked down like a vault. And then there were the clothes. It started with her pulling out old dresses and heels. But soon, packages started arriving at our doorstep. Boxes from boutiques, lingerie bags tucked discreetly into her purse. At first, she brushed them off, just some online shopping. But the way she wore them, the way she checked herself in the mirror before leaving, told a different story. She wasn't buying these things for me. One Saturday, I finally caught a glimpse of just how far gone things were. She was in the bathroom, humming as she applied her makeup. The door was cracked open, and I watched her from the hallway for a moment. She wasn't getting ready the way a wife does for a casual night out. She was getting ready like a woman going on a date, meticulous, deliberate, almost trembling with excitement. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Just one word flashed across the screen before it dimmed again: tonight. No name, just a number. She grabbed the phone quickly, checking it before slipping it into her purse. She didn't notice me standing there. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care. That night, she came home after 3 in the morning. I was awake. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening for the sound of her car pulling into the driveway. When she finally stumbled in, her heels clattering against the hardwood, I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. I heard her in the bathroom, the faucet running, the faint sound of her toothbrush. Then she slipped into bed beside me. Her skin was warm, her hair smelled faintly of smoke, cologne, and something musky that didn't belong to her. She didn't touch me, she didn't say a word. And I didn't move, but my chest ached with the knowledge of where she'd been, who she'd been with, what she'd been doing while I lay here waiting. I saw the signs, every damn one of them. And I let it slide. It wasn't that I didn't care. I cared more than I could admit, even to myself. But the truth is, I was afraid. Afraid of what would happen if I confronted her. Afraid of hearing her confirm what I already knew. Afraid that she'd look me in the eye and say, yes, I've replaced you. Because then I'd have to do something about it. And I didn't know if I had the strength. So, I let her live her double life. I let her vanish into the night, dressed like a woman on fire, only to return with that smug little smile that told me everything without saying a word. And in the silence, I punished myself more than she ever could. There were moments, though, where the mask almost slipped. One evening, she left her phone unattended on the coffee table while she stepped out to grab the laundry. It lit up, and I saw a preview. You're addictive. Can't stop thinking about you. My heart stopped. My throat went dry. By the time she came back, I was staring blankly at the television, my hands clenched into fists. She picked up her phone without a word, scrolling through whatever thread that message had come from. Her lips curled into the faintest grin, and then she set it back down, as if daring me to ask. I didn't. Another time, she came home wearing a necklace I'd never seen before. A delicate chain with a small pendant, something elegant but intimate. New? I asked, my voice careful. You're quiet lately, she said. I almost laughed. Quiet, that was her observation. What do you want me to say? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She tilted her head, her lips curving into that faint smirk I'd come to hate. Anything, or nothing, it doesn't matter. And just like that, she turned and walked to the bedroom, leaving me sitting there with a weight in my chest I couldn't put into words. That was when it hit me, she wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't afraid of me finding out, wasn't afraid of the consequences, wasn't afraid of losing me. Because in her mind, she'd already replaced me. And I was still here, clinging to the ghost of a woman who didn't exist anymore. I started noticing things I couldn't ignore. Her perfume lingered longer than it should after a night out, mixed with something musky and foreign. Her lipstick was always reapplied before she came home, but never carefully enough to hide the faint smudge at the corner of her mouth. Once, I noticed a faint scratch on her shoulder when she was changing. I didn't say anything, but she caught me looking. Her eyes met mine in the mirror, daring me to ask. I didn't. She smiled to herself, like she'd won some invisible battle, and went back to fastening her bra. That smile stayed with me longer than the scratch did. The distance between us grew in ways I couldn't measure. We stopped having real conversations. Dinners were eaten in silence, or filled with small talk that felt hollow. When we went to bed, we lay back to back, oceans apart though only inches separated us. I'd reach for her sometimes, out of habit, out of desperation. But she'd pull away, murmuring, "I'm tired." And I'd roll over, staring into the dark, knowing she wasn't too tired for someone else. It's a strange thing, living with a stranger. Every morning, she'd get up, make coffee, kiss me lightly on the cheek before work, as if she were still my wife. But at night, she became someone else. Someone bolder, freer, more alive. It was like watching her live two separate lives, and realizing I belonged to neither of them. One night, curiosity got the better of me. She had fallen asleep on the couch, her phone resting loosely in her hand. I hesitated, my heart racing, before gently sliding it from her fingers. I told myself I wouldn't go through it. I told myself I just wanted to move it, to set it on the table. But my thumb hovered over the screen. And when it lit up, I saw it. A thread of messages, too long to read fully, but the previews were enough. "I can still taste you. When are we sneaking away again? You're dangerous, you know that." My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. I set the phone down before I could see more. She stirred, opening her eyes slightly. "What are you doing?" "Nothing," I said quickly, retreating to the chair across the room. She smiled faintly, that damn smirk again, before drifting back to sleep. And I sat there in the dark, my chest heavy with the weight of words I couldn't bring myself to say. By now, it wasn't just about infidelity. It was about the person she had become. She wasn't the woman who used to curl into my arms on Sunday mornings, or laugh at my bad jokes, or dream with me about the future. She was someone else entirely. Someone I didn't recognize. And maybe, just maybe, she liked this new version of herself better. That thought haunted me more than anything else, not that she was with other men, but that she didn't want to be the woman she used to be anymore. The woman I loved was gone. And in her place stood a stranger wearing her face, her perfume, her smile. A stranger who looked me in the eye every day, and dared me to say something. But I didn't, because I was afraid that if I did, she'd confirm what I already knew. That she had replaced me. Completely. People often ask, at least in theory, what would you do if your partner cheated on you? Some answer boldly, I'd leave immediately. Others say, I'd confront them and demand the truth. But the reality, when you're in the middle of it, when the betrayal is in your bed, in your house, in your heart, things aren't so simple. I thought I'd be the man who slammed the door, who walked away with his pride intact. But I wasn't. I became something else, something quieter, something weaker, and maybe that's why I'm telling this story now, not to her, not to my friends, but to you, anonymously. Because the truth of my silence is the heaviest thing I carry. Every day I wake up, and I play my role. I'm the husband. I smile at her in the kitchen. I kiss her goodbye before work. I sit across from her at dinner, listening to her half-stories about her meetings, or friends. And then at night, when she dresses in something she never wears for me, when she slips out with that glint in her eyes, I don't say a word. I just watch her leave. And when she comes home, later, messier, smelling of someone else, I still don't say a word. It's not because I don't notice. It's because I do. You see, I know what would happen if I confronted her. She'd lie, at first. Then she'd twist it, turn it on me, say I was paranoid, controlling, insecure. And if I pressed harder, if I showed her the evidence she carelessly leaves behind, she'd shrug. Maybe even smile. And I'd hear those words again, the ones that have burned into my skull. I can replace you in 24 hours. The way she said it back then wasn't just a threat. It was a fact, a promise, a declaration of her power. And she's proven it true, over and over. So what good would it do to confront her now? There's also another truth, one I'm almost ashamed to admit. A part of me still loves her. Not this version of her, the bold, reckless, unapologetic woman who comes home smelling of sin, but the woman she used to be. The one who held my hand in the dark, who made plans with me, who looked at me like I was enough. I keep waiting for that woman to come back. But deep down, I know she won't. Sometimes, I wonder if I stay out of love, or out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of admitting that the life I built has already crumbled, and I've been standing in the ruins pretending it's still a home. It's easier to stay silent. It's easier to swallow the hurt, night after night, than to tear my world apart completely. So I let her have her adventures. I let her live this double life. I let her replace me, piece by piece, with strangers who will never love her the way I once did. And I remain here, the ghost of a husband, watching her burn everything we built, and calling it freedom. Do I hate her? No, hate would be simple, clean. But what I feel is messier. It's a cocktail of love, resentment, longing, and despair. It's the ache of wanting someone who doesn't exist anymore. It's the sting of realizing that the person you thought was your forever is just passing through. The truth is, she'll never be caught, because I'll never expose her. She'll keep her secret life, her whispers, her late nights. She'll keep reinventing herself in the arms of other men. She'll keep bragging, if not out loud, then with her actions, that she can replace me anytime she wants. And I'll keep pretending I don't know. Because the alternative, facing the end, admitting I've already been replaced, is something I'm not ready for. Not yet. So this is my confession. I'm not the man who fights. I'm not the man who leaves. I'm the man who stays silent. I stay silent because my silence is the only power I have left. And maybe, in some twisted way, it's my revenge. She thinks she's fooling me, that I'm blind, that I'm clueless. But I see it all. I know it all. I just don't let her know I do. Will I ever walk away? Maybe one day, when the weight of my silence finally crushes me. Or maybe I'll stay until the very end, until there's nothing left but shadows of who we once were. But until then, I'll keep playing my part. The silent husband, the invisible man in his own marriage, the witness to his wife's reckless adventure. And she'll never know that I know. That's the final irony. She bragged she could replace me in 24 hours. And she did, but she never realized that in the process, she became someone I could never replace either. Not because she's irreplaceable, but because the woman I loved is already gone. Disclaimer. This story is a dramatized narrative for mature audiences only. It explores themes of infidelity, emotional conflict, and betrayal. Names, characters, and certain details have been altered or left anonymous to protect privacy. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. In the end, this wasn't just a story about infidelity, it was about silence. My wife once bragged she could replace me in 24 hours, and she did, not with one man, but with a new version of herself I no longer recognized. I stayed, not because I was blind, but because I was broken, torn between love for the woman she used to be and fear of facing life without her. The hardest truth I carry is this: she thinks she's fooling me, but she isn't. I know. I've always known. I just chose silence over destruction. And maybe, that silence is the only thing I have left. If this story left you speechless, you're not alone. Every silence, every secret, every betrayal has a voice, and we bring those voices here. Don't just listen, be part of the journey. Subscribe now for more raw, untold confessions of love, betrayal, and hidden desires. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next true infidelity story that will make you question everything about trust and relationships. Share this video with someone who needs to hear how silence can be louder than words. Because here, every story is real. Every secret matters. And the next one might change how you see love forever.